I love storytelling. Storytelling is a part of my family DNA. We love to tell them, we love to read them, we love to hear them. Storytelling is history. Now, history has a lot more details than most of the stories that I tell, but nonetheless, it's storytelling. During that late 19th century, revivalism had come back into New England, and there was a great stirring, a great hunger for people to know God, a hunger to know what the Bible taught. And people like Dwight L. Moody had come and had held meetings here in New England. There was a man by the name of John Gray who worked for a man named Denning, who was the general secretary of the YMCA in Boston. And he had this idea of an association where you could help small churches in New England when they were without a pastor and they were discouraged and they needed help. We could provide some of that kind of help, and the bottom line again was evangelism. A.J. Gordon, the founder of Gordon College, was the pastor of the Clarendon Street Baptist Church. And he was called to give an address at Park Street Church, where they had gathered on a Wednesday evening in 1887 to talk about this idea. And A.J. Gordon gave the address, and Alpine McLean became the president, and John Gray was the clerk. The early challenges for the Evangelistic Association of New England was the same kind of challenge that we faced a few years ago. And that is how to not go in so many different directions. There were so many needs. There were great needs in the rural part of New England, and there were great needs within the city. The first annual meeting, it was at the Clarendon Street Baptist Church. There was a man there by the name of Reverend George Needham, and George Needham explained with such passion the need in the rural parts of New England. He said that there was more than half of New England was unchurched, and that when they preached the gospel, people were surprised by what the message said. In the 1920s, we were in the lumber camps of northern New England. Our men would trek through the woods and sleep in the bunkhouses. Amazing stories of people that would do like Paul talked about, whatever it takes to bring the gospel to people who need to know who Jesus is. There was a wonderful man by the name of Herbert Seymour in 1919. He was a Methodist minister. He was from Pittsburgh, New Hampshire. He became then associated with the Evangelistic Association of New England for about 21 years. He worked with us. He was very good with an axe. He could fell a tree as well, but he would go to visit these lumber camps, and he would carry comfort bags that had been made by women in the auxiliary branch of the Evangelistic Association. And these comfort bags would contain needles and threads and bandages and iodine. But this man didn't just give them these bags. He would bind up their wounds. He would pray with them, and these men knew that there were people who loved them. They weren't just after their soul. They cared about the whole of them. He was concerned about alcohol abuse, and so he would have been very unhappy when he learned that his dilapidated old Ford that he finally sold for $400 got bought by a rum runner. Now, this man figured he had it made in the shade, because on the side of the car was painted Evangelistic Association of New England. So he could go across the border into Canada and back and forth hauling his goods without any problem at all. But some sharp-eyed Mountie must have wondered when he saw this cigar-smoking man come through the toll that maybe there was a problem here. We had vacation Bible schools for children, and it was amazing what this little group of people throughout the decades has done to make a difference in New England and really around the world. The Emery family has had a very significant role in New England. Alan Emery Jr. and his wife for many years held Bible studies in their home for teenagers. And we were the recipients at Gordon College of some of those kids who had come to Christ in those studies and then had come here and then had gone on to Gordon Conwell. What a wonderful role they had in maintaining the evangelistic heart of the Evangelistic Association of New England. We never lost the heart of why we were founded, which was to evangelize, to tell people the good news of who Jesus is. Methods changed, ways that we did things changed. How we did it but we never lost the pulse. We never lost the heart of what we were about. Whether it was Don Gill or Steve Macchia and now David Midwood, always we have held on to that. We've had Congress, we've had conferences, we've had tent meetings, we've had wagons pulled by horses, we've been on the Boston Commons, we've been in hospitals where thousands of people were tended to by people who felt that there was a need when people came from around the world really to our hospitals in Boston. In 1907, 1 year, 400 ministers wrote thank you letters to the Evangelistic Association, thanking them for the hospital work. Styles change, people change, but the need doesn't change. For people to know who Jesus is. And it made me so thrilled to think I've somehow been a part of an organization that has loved people enough to fell trees, to make comfort bags, to bind up their wounds, to somehow be a part of a group that has found people praying and sent women evangelists and child evangelists and people who would set up tents and people who would go to the beaches and to the hospitals to tell them about Jesus. We are a part of a wonderful organization that God has kept His hand on for all of these years.